The next step in the guide is to create your output report type. However, this should have been created when you created your detailed turnover snapshot object. So I'm going to skip this section and you can refer back to the guide if needed. So now on to creating your output report. First, I want to navigate back to reports. And I'm going to create a new report. And I want to select the report type for detailed turnover snapshot and start the report. If I first navigate to my filters, I want to show all detailed snapshots all time. I'm also going to add an additional filter to say run date is within the last 365 days, and that's using a relative date in my report. If I click this blue button, it switches back to using a specific calendar date. If I click use relative date, it means it will always be the last 365 days. This will give me turnover data for the last rolling 12 months. I'll go back to my outline tab. What I want to do is group the rows by run date adjusted, so I can see the data grouped by the actual date, so January versus February, for example. The other thing I'm going to do is click this drop-down arrow and then group the date by the calendar month. This will now show me, for example, July 2025 rather than the 1st of August 2025. It will keep it generic to the month and also look at the data the report is referring to. Now let's start to add my columns. I want to add all the columns that I had in my source report so I can view them in the snapshot data and populate them here. Then the next thing I need to do is add a summary formula. So if I click this little arrow next to columns and then add summary formula, then I can paste in the different formulas that I have in the guide. So average headcount total, turnover voluntary and turnover involuntary. So let's do the first one, average headcount total. Number to 2 decimal places, and then I'm just going to simply paste the formula I had and click the validate button. I need this formula to show for grand total only, so I need to select this option. And then I can check that it is now valid and click apply. I then need to repeat that for the other 3 formulas. So add summary formula, turnover total, select grand total only, and then paste in my formula, copied and pasted from my guide. Turnover total, I've just realised I put it as number when it should be %, so I'm just going to correct that and click apply. And now for the last 2, turnover involuntary, and I want this to be % to 2 decimal places and grand total only. Now I've got an error with this formula, so I'm just going to fix that to show you how I do it. It looks like I've actually made a typo in my field that I created on the snapshot object. So I have missed out a T in involuntary. So you should still be able to copy and paste because you wouldn't have made a typo like me, but I'm just going to delete the T in involuntary, and that has fixed it. Click apply. And last one, my summary formula is turnover voluntary. And this is a % field to 2 decimal places, and then Again, I just copy and paste my formula, select grand total only, and then apply. So although no data is showing on this report because my snapshot hasn't actually run yet, that means it's ready to go when this runs for me for the first time on the 1st of January 2026. Now, this is mentioned in the guide and we have mentioned it previously, but I just really wanted to call out that those formulas that I've just added, they are calculating turnover based on a rolling 12 months period. If you want to use a different period, you'll need to amend the formulas to get meaningful figures. For example, if I click into total turnover, you can see at the end of the formula, it divides by 12. If you wanted to look at a particular quarter, then you would need to amend this to say divide by 4, and also amend your filters here so that the run date time is only looking at the last quarter rather than the last 365 days. Other than that, my report is now good to go. All I need to do now is save and run the report, and I'm going to call this detailed turnover output total turnover. I've run out of characters, so I'm just going to delete that space, and again make sure I save this in my report called turnover snapshot reports, and then click save.